Welcome to Pick a Lane. I'm Josh.
And I'm Erin. And apparently, we have a lot to say.
I lived with chronic illness for years and then finally healed using a technology called bioenergetics.
Through that experience, we co-founded a holistic wellness brand called Rudy.
We've learned a lot, to say the least, and we want to share it with you.
We'll explore mindfulness, wellness, and spirituality.
Topics ranging from pooping out parasites to breathwork and even traveling to parallel universes.
We spent a lot of years not living authentic to ourselves.
So our hope for Pick a Lane is to help you find your freedom and pick your own lane in life.
Tune in to a new episode of the Pick a Lane podcast every Friday on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
And subscribe and review if you haven't already.
We hope the show resonates and we can't wait to connect.
Welcome to Pick a Lane.
Hi, everybody.
What it do, baby boo?
Good morning.
Good freaking morning. Kids off at camp.
Science
We're down
camp.
doing our pods. Science camp. Dude, the science camp is so much better than Disney camp, and I thought it was going to be the other way around.
Yeah.
Disney camp was weak.
Listen, this is a low budget production.
I don't care. They're out there exploding volcanoes
I
this
know.
week.
Wonder if they're learning about quantum biology.
Oh, man. If there's a school out there teaching kids quantum biology, I'm moving there.
Same.
Straight up.
I want to go.
Same. That'd be awesome.
I wish I was smart enough to go back to school for quantum physics. That'd be really cool. I think I've
You don't think you're smart enough? You're a lot smarter than I am.
smart, but imagine going to school for like a master's in something like quantum physics. I'm certainly not qualified for that, but
That's deep shit right there, for sure.
OSU is right down the corner if you want me to.
There's no way
Sign
OSU offers that.
No, they do. Actually, my brother was
For
in
real?
the program. Yeah.
Your brother was in the...
Yeah.
Sorry, Ryan. Your brother was in the program.
He studied not quantum biology, but quantum physics, I think,
What?
for a brief stint. I know.
Mind blown.
Let's
You
have
just
him
got
on the
cooler,
podcast.
Rai. You were cool before, but
There you
that's
go.
cool.
Yep. How are you?
But that's the question you shouldn't ask.
That's so true. Wait, talk more about that because I actually hate that question.
Yeah.
It's so hard to answer, honestly. So then everyone just says, good.
Well, you've had tangents of that on the podcast.
I know.
But we were just having a conversation right before the podcast started about how we feel like the intros feel so redundant because we talk about the same shit every single
Yes.
time. The problem is it's the how are you?
Yes. Okay, so what's a different question? Because I hate that question.
What has lit you up this morning?
Oh, okay.
Oh my
so much
gosh.
better.
Oh my gosh.
Also, I'm using this in real life because
Yeah. Do it. Do it with our neighbors and see what they say.
okay, great. Can't wait. No, but I visited a friend recently who I haven't seen in a long time. We're friends from high school. So like you can only know each other so much when you
Yeah.
only see each other once every year or so.
Sure.
You sit down and you ask that question, like, what's new? And instantly I'm just like, there's so much that's new. And I actually have no idea how to put it into words. And so I just end
Totally.
up being like, oh, just staying busy. Like, barf. What an answer.
Barf.
I
What
know.
You answered that?
I did.
That's so lame.
Well, how do you explain? I mean, I did say like, we've got a podcast and we're doing a couple things, but it's just.
We've got a badass podcast that's taking over the world, and
Okay.
we're building a bioenergetic company that everyone will know about in the next year.
There you go. I love that frequency. I'm going to get on it.
Yep.
So asking how are you or what's new just feels like you're not going to get probably unless the person has rehearsed, like has an answer in their pocket already, which I've considered.
Which is also dumb.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear your, what would you call that?
Pre-formulated answer.
I don't want to hear your premeditated answer.
Yeah.
I want to hear what's really...
I know. Okay,
You.
so what's lighting you up this morning?
No, I just asked it. Get out of here.
Oh man, what's lighting me up this morning? We talked last week about that book that's definitely blowing my mind.
For sure.
And this concept of law of attraction and just starting to consider and wrap my head around what that is in real life, like practically how I apply that in
Yeah.
life. What does it feel like and what does it look like to match the frequency of what I want? Because I think probably most of my life and probably most people in general are more so stuck in this state of, it's like we hope for things and we wish for things and we think about things and desire things.
Yeah.
But we're not cultivating that frequency of what we want within ourselves. Instead, we're cultivating this frequency of desire, which is therefore lack,
Sure.
if that makes sense. And yeah, so that's something I'm just considering a lot and getting excited about the prospect of changing that. Like I'm not there yet, but I'm seeing how it could be possible.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Way better than the how are you.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Boom.
What's lighting you up this morning?
Everything.
Josh is just lit.
I'm straight lit. Life is lit. and I'm
love it.
loving it.
I love those days.
Oh, it's the best. Recently, I've been having a lot of conversations with people that are, I would say, pretty darn close to the end of their healing journey. And I know we talked a couple episodes ago about how people are like in the middle of their
Mhm.
journey, but I'm starting to see an evolution of thought process that currently exists in that journey. And it seems to be something that is consistent across whoever you are. That's lighting me up because I think I can build a program that helps people get through those phases and start to ask some real questions. I think when you're in SOS, when you're healing, even when you're on the other side of the journey, meaning like you're feeling your optimal self, things are still coming at you
Yeah, life doesn't stop.
100%. And asking the right questions has to evolve based on where you're at in life. And so I'm having conversations with these people. They look totally different, but there's still some common denominators
Mhm.
that are just weaved into our mentalities. So I'm stoked about that. There is a level of frequency that exists inside of that mentality. Like we've been talking about attracting certain things. I think I sent you a video of Hertz devices or whatever those ringy thingy
Oh,
mabobbers
tuning
are.
fork.
They had a tuning fork that was stationary and a ping pong ball was wedged up against it and it was 440 hertz. They took a tuning fork that was like 220 hertz or whatever and was pounding it, and the ping pong ball wasn't even moving. Then they took a 440 hertz tuning fork and started ringing it around the other tuning fork, and the ping pong ball started to bounce all over the place, just proving the law of attraction and just how frequency through things we can't see impact us.
Yeah.
That mentality and the I am, just like my mantras that we've talked about, I think there's a lot of things that I unintentionally came across in my
Totally.
healing journey that I think can impact people.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that you're doing just intuitively aligns with Dr. Joe Dispenza and all these other really brilliant minds out there talking about law of attraction and
Yeah.
quantum physics and all of the things. You were doing that kind of just naturally.
Mhm.
And yeah, your mantras were huge, I think, in your healing journey. And it's one thing that's really hard from like the practitioner standpoint. I have consults with people and we'll talk through all the physical things and the nutritional things, and the remedies are going to be helpful. There are some homeopathic remedies that can be really helpful for the emotional and spiritual side as well,
Mhm.
but mostly we're working with the physical body there. But the one thing that the remedies can't do is the mindset stuff,
Yeah.
the emotional, the spiritual side of things. Like that is probably the hardest work, I think.
Mm.
The physical stuff gets hard and challenging, but the spiritual, emotional side, if you fail to address that, you're going to be stuck in the loop.
Yeah.
It just is how it is. I don't know. It's all connected. So that's always the piece that I think people maybe struggle with most.
Yeah, and it's something that I just dove into around the time when things got really hard. I was like, it may have been unhealthy. Like, what can I control? And
Sure.
it's my routines and my mindset and my mentality towards this. If I know I have to go through this to get to the other side, how can I optimize everything else around me while it sucks? So I did. And I think I just went down deep rabbit holes of impact and meditative experiences and visualization and prompts and creating that playlist of specific sounds and how each song has a different reasoning and what I'm doing inside of my meditation with those songs. And I think it could be impactful for people. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to dig more into that and see what comes out of it.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see what comes out of that. And I do think it's helpful for people, maybe more like me, who are not so much naturally drawn maybe to that thing. I'm deeply spiritual, but when it comes to like routines, stuff like that, to have somebody kind of hold my hand and help me build that, and it may look different from yours, but to
100%.
kind of get me started, that could be really helpful.
That's for sure how you grow. You're constantly looking for courses or people to teach you or
Yeah.
just a guide.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I'm going to go rogue regardless. Let me
Yeah.
figure it out on my own.
Mhm.
And even if I fail 10 times, the 11th time, hopefully I succeed. And that will change my life, is how I look at
Yeah.
things. So
One
just
time,
different approach.
just something about Josh one time when we were really wanting to move back or move out of Cleveland. Josh applied to 108 jobs.
Yep.
And it was the 109th position that he got.
108th.
Oh,
108th
108th. Okay.
job was what I got a yes to.
Crazy.
Yep.
So he is, I don't know,
Stubborn.
determined. Yeah.
When I have my mind on a goal, I manifest,
Yes.
aka 108 job applications.
Yeah.
And I went through so many like interviews.
Yeah.
I got all the way to the end of some interviews and even got an offer that was bogus, but I was doing projects for people, and then they would use those projects in their like paid advertisements and stuff, and it was
Rude.
ridiculous. But 108,
Yep.
and here I am.
Here you
I don't give up, that's for sure.
No.
Good job, see?
We got there.
Yeah. What lights you up today?
Love that question.
That is a great question. So, what lights you guys up?
Dramatic pause.
Okay, now we're back. What we're going to talk about today is something else that has been lighting me up that I'm curious to hear your thoughts on.
Okay.
It's something I've been pondering as, okay, I'm still what I would consider on my healing journey, but chronic illness isn't a piece of that anymore. And navigating through, okay, there's all these different modalities. I'm shifting my mindset, and I feel like my consciousness is continuing to be more and more awake, tapping into new energies and all of these things. But at the core, what makes me happy? It's a conversation that I've been having with a few people as well who are healed, and symptoms that keep coming up, not lingering symptoms, but just things that are being stubborn in the symptom category. And I have those too. They come and go. But then we went to Seattle and they were gone completely. And somebody just texted me this morning, even being like, I came to this place and all my symptoms are gone. And I'm like, what is that? So I began digging into it more and more this past week, just trying to answer questions that maybe I had never asked before about happiness. And happiness meaning not in the materialistic way, like authenticity in who you are at the core, not things that are popular, like going on a morning walk is super hot right now on Instagram and TikTok, and everyone's talking about it. Even Superhuman has meditations for walks. Yeah, those are great and they're going to help your mental state, but authentically, like if you strip away, even if it sounds weird, what makes me happy?
Is joy a better word?
Well, I think joy is completely tied to happiness, but I think joy is inner and maybe happiness is the outward representation of how you feel on the inside. I may be joyful inside, but my surroundings may cause me to feel X.
Okay.
Or I may be not expressing it well enough because of certain circumstances, even though inside I feel a lot of joy.
Yeah, to me, joy has always felt internally derived.
Sure.
And happiness feels more like a transient mood,
Yes.
potentially dependent on your circumstances.
100%. And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay. And so
So-
you're wanting to cultivate happiness.
Yeah, we've talked a bunch on the podcast about inner knowing and falling in love with yourself and being confident in your inner peace and things like that. I think that brings out joy. But just because I feel like I'm knowing my inner self really well and my consciousness is awake and I'm at peace with myself doesn't necessarily mean that I'm fully happy. There's external forces that exist inside of that, but what are things that I can do in my life that bring that type of happiness? And so I've been thinking specifically about our trip to Seattle of like, why did all of my symptoms disappear?
Yeah.
What is that? For me, I do think that surroundings matter.
Yeah.
We always talk about how I want to go to the West, but what is it about the West that excites me and makes me happy? I'm by the ocean, I'm by mountains, I'm by big tall trees, greenery, I'm by people who have big dreams. So many of these things ignite my happiness because my inner joy craves that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it's situational and it's maybe not essential for joy, but could bring about more happiness. Yeah, it's like I think it's important to be able to cultivate joy no matter your circumstance.
Agreed.
If that makes sense.
I totally agree.
And I think that's something that we work on a lot in our family and in our own selves individually.
Yep.
But there's nothing wrong with also pursuing the circumstances that bring happiness.
Yes. The reason I think those types of things make me happy is because it brings me into the now.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's the nature.
100%.
It's the wonder.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when I come out of those things or even just go back into daily life, regardless of the location, I'm constantly thinking about the future or the past, or even just in work, we're constantly planning and thinking about what's ahead. And I'm never present anymore in work. We're constantly learning from the past, embracing for the future, planning and signing clients and thinking about what campaigns we need to be doing and marketing calendars. It's all not now.
Yeah.
And so when I can detach from that and be fully present, obviously my joy just booms out of me and brings me into a happy place.
Yeah. I think the problem is when people pursue happiness without first establishing the inner joy. I think that's when it
For sure.
becomes
It's materialistic then.
Exactly. So there's definitely a difference, but I feel like that's been something we've really been pursuing the last,
Totally.
honestly, better part of 6 years,
Mhm.
cultivating joy that is not dependent on circumstance, location, all those things. Like, I feel like we're capable of that. Therefore, we are now pursuing what also makes us just happy.
Yeah, I think that's the evolution
Yeah.
of finding full joy within. You start to ask these questions of, okay, I'm starting to see things that don't align with my being, and I'm totally cool. I'm content. I genuinely am.
Yeah.
Like where we're at, I'm happy, and I can see small things here and there that ignite that. But I think you have to have times where you step into that next level. And we talk about astrocartography all the time. I think that's what this aligns with is you have your main lines and harmonious and disharmonious lines. You can find your inner peace and inner joy and that be fully ignited. But is there energies that aren't on the same frequency as what your inner peace is? I think, yes, I think that exists. And so maybe you have to work harder because of that and be more proactive. And maybe you have more negative thoughts that you need to combat, whatever. But as we've ignited both of our inner knowings and peace and joy and love for ourselves, more questions continue to come up of what is it that we authentically are looking for in this life? And how do we connect to it? Those also are external, especially when they're not materialistic. And so there's this connection that we crave with people, with nature, with what we embody, and finding that happiness, I think, relieves a lot of different stresses because it forces you to be in the here and now. Even when we're out in nature here, when the weather permits it, we're freaking hugging trees.
Yeah.
We're going to the water
Yeah.
and we're present. We're not thinking about anything else.
Yeah.
So I think all that I crave inside of that happiness is more access to it, more opportunity in it. And I think grounding and centering ourselves in that is only going to bring more inner peace and joy because there isn't like this happy blocker.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And I'm not saying like for sure we're going to still be stressed and thinking about the future and the past. But if you can have that opportunity to go just be in the here and now and know that there's sacred places for that, why not take it up?
Yeah. Are there moments or times in the past where you felt like you had that you like look back to embody the feeling?
I think that this is the most at peace within that I've ever had. That joy is something that's you can't miss. That inner knowing was ignited genuinely with that breathwork session last year. And it's just been a journey since. And I think happiness for me was so materialistic before that I was constantly chasing for what was going to make me happy when I recognized that what I needed first was to find joy inside of myself. Once I was able to do that, the question started to come up of, okay, what actually does matter here for me? Which I think is, again, bio-individual. I think you're going to find happiness in so many different types of things depending on who you are. But what is my conscious craving? And what do I need to continue to ignite this joy inside of me that then will be a ripple effect to people around me?
Yeah.
And so I think, sure, there's seasons, there's months, there's days, there's weeks where you're going to be down or there's just conflicting factors that exist. That's life. But if I'm able to like go and just be here now, it kind of is hard to do with how we are choosing to live right now. And I think it's difficult to do for many people. And then when they find it, I genuinely think that's why surfers are the happiest people on earth. Harvard, I think it was, did a study. It was supposed to be 25 years, but I think it ended, I can't remember. It was long with a ton of people in it, thousands of people. It ended early because of COVID, because obviously people weren't doing what they were doing.
People's happiness a little bit.
But what they found was after years and years and years of data, surfers were the happiest.
People who had surfing as a hobby.
Yes.
In particular.
Yeah. Now,
so
like
they studied
professional
all the
surfers.
different hobbies that people could have. Well, not all of them, but many different hobbies.
Yeah.
And surfers were
And
happiest.
they found that surfers were happy. Woodworkers were the second happiest.
Oh, I believe that.
Like carpentry.
Yeah.
What they found was there's different frequencies. That's not what they say, but that's what I'm saying. Of like the water with the minerals and everything exists inside that. Same with wood. Like there's different compounds that exist inside of wood. But both exercises force you to be in that specific moment.
Yeah.
If you're not in that moment, you're not going to get the wave. Same with woodworking. If you're carving and being intentional, you can't be somewhere else in the mind because you can fuck it up. Those types of things is what I'm looking for. And I would imagine that the majority of people haven't found those things for themselves.
Yeah, finding adult hobbies in general is tough,
But it's
but
not even adult hobbies, like what you choose, whether it be surroundings or what your body is literally longing for because
Mm,
you found that inner joy and you know what's going to bring you happiness out of that is cultivating different circumstances, different minerals, different frequencies, different everything that pulls you into the here and now, whether you want it to be or not. And that brings in that meditative experience
mhm.
to recognize just that.
Water always does it for me. Looking at it, playing in it, I don't know. It just feels very grounding to me.
Yeah. So just food for thought. It's what I've been thinking about the past week or so. What you have to be careful of is it not to bring extreme discontentment because
Right.
it's not looking at what you don't have. It's just being conscious and aware of what you need as an individual to help cultivate that happiness and inner joy.
And matching the frequency of it. So again, that's what I've been just toying with and trying to learn more about. If you want a thing in your life, you have to feel it as if you have it now.
Yes.
And that's the difference between wanting a thing, desiring a thing, chasing a thing. Like that is what we're all used to.
Yeah.
Like that's how we feel like we get.
It's advertised to us daily.
Yes,
You turn it from a want into a need. That's advertisement.
totally.
Yeah.
But that frequency is lack.
Yes.
That is chasing.
Scarcity.
Scarcity, materialistic, like that's
Yep.
all of that. Instead, I'm trying to embody the frequency of those things as if I have them now because I do. Like I have the potential for all of that within
Mhm.
already right now.
Yeah.
It's just it feels like speaking a little bit of a different language. I don't just like a
Mhm.
complete shift in the
Yeah.
way I think, but instead of just having a gratitude practice, and it's awesome to be grateful for the things that I have in my physical world right now,
Sure.
but also speaking or writing or whatever works for you, that I'm grateful for the things that I am consciously desiring as I have them now, if that makes sense. So
Yes.
like I'm grateful for whatever, something that I am manifesting because I am obsessed with water. I feel so grounded by water. I want water in my life, whether that's like living near an ocean or having a pool or something.
Mhm.
I'm grateful that I am worthy of living near water
Yes.
or whatever that looks
Mhm.
like, instead of saying, I
Hope to be by water someday.
exactly, like, that's
Mhm.
the difference.
Yeah.
I'm embodying it as if I have it already
Yeah.
because I have the potential for it already. It's not
Yes.
like a lie, it's not like a fib, it's that I know I am worthy and fully capable of living near water one
Yeah.
day.
100%. Long-term happiness and joy equals the here and now. It's the
Yeah.
only way you're going to get it. Eliminate all materialistic ideas and ideologies. Tap in to that spiritual essence and start to figure out what helps you be centered and grounded and stabilized inside and outside.
Which for me is really helpful to be starting to understand this a little bit because I've always thought that I'm just like a lazy person or I lack motivation or I can't get going and I just have to have better goals and I have to have better drive and better work ethic or whatever it is. And do I need to lean into some of those characteristics? Absolutely. I'm not ignoring that, but knowing that it's not all about the goal setting per se and like crushing your goals.
Yeah.
It's more about embodying in the now what it feels like to already have those. And then it becomes flow. Like then it becomes not so hard,
Yeah.
not so strenuous or like forceful with all the friction that I often feel. Like then it becomes flow. And I felt that before within the last couple of years, like what
Yeah.
it feels like to be working but in flow. And so that's what I'm going to be doing more of.
Yeah. You have to let it go too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I sent you something about this if you watched it, about how your vision board or your manifestations or whatever, you need to put them out in the world connected to that frequency. But if you hold on to it and think about it all the time and you become obsessive over it and you're constantly forcing, you're not on the same frequency. You have to build the intention, curate it into exactly what you want, and then put it out in the universe and trust that it's going to be attracted to you.
And match it. That's the thing.
Yes.
Match it here now.
100%. Here, now.
Yes. Yeah, we're not attached to anything. We're not attached to even the outcome of it.
Mhm.
But I'm going to match that frequency here now.
Yeah.
And then I already have it. Like that's
100%.
the trick. That's the magic. It's great. It's already here. It's literally done.
That's exactly what I'm saying about releasing the chasing and build out the attracting. Because, yeah, do I long to be West? For sure. But I have a forest in my backyard that I'm building this manifestation. I'm building these intentions. I know what makes me happy. As soon as I go out into that and I've released it, I'm grateful for the tiny little things that I'm hyper aware of now because I've curated that manifestation and sent it out into the universe. That's kind of what I'm saying about the happiness equaling here and now. It's not what I can have in the future. It's not what I want or need that's going to come in the future. The manifestations are huge in that process. But if you hold on to those and don't let go, you're going to turn from the idea of manifestation to ultra discontentment, which is not only going to eliminate your happiness, it's going to suck the inner peace out of you and take away all of your joy too.
And the universe is going to just be dishing out what you're sending out.
Exactly.
And that is all not the vibe, not the frequency that you want. Yeah, it's super fascinating. And I mean, if you're listening and curious about this stuff, Joe Dispenza is a great resource, I feel like, for a lot of the
people have like different ideas of Joe because he's not scientifically qualified. Like he's not actually a doctor. He's not actually a scientist, but he has a bunch of resources and definitely thought-provoking ideas. He was definitely a gateway drug for me going into the quantum side of things. It's not somebody that I ultra follow anymore because he flippantly and willy-nilly says stuff, but there's a lot of evidence behind a lot of what he says. And you just have to trust your intuition and your inner knowing on what resonates with you and what doesn't, just like everything else in the world. So take everything with a grain of salt, but investigate for yourself. There's a million people that are talking about this right now and been talking about it since as long as you could even think of. Just dig in and start to figure out what your inner knowing is and what your intuition is leaning into and start to tap into those energies to see what resonates.
Yeah. And I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen if you try it? Like you can
Gosh, the worst thing that can happen is probably knowing yourself more. Oh, the worst.
Bummer. I thought you said annoying yourself more, and I was like, huh?
Knowing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a constant journey and evolution. It's going to be something that everyone has to constantly work on. There's new factors that at play literally daily that are influencing and shifting and even allowing you to understand more. Especially this day and age, we have access to information like never before. So you can just Google something and get an answer or ask chat and they'll write you a book. That now is a way to help us build our consciousness further and understand. But at the end of the day, those are all still modalities and you have to trust yourself. Rand, I actually just was reading something. Somebody was asking, I forget who they were asking, but from a spiritual level, how do you feel about plant-based medicine, ayahuasca, mushrooms, combo, and everything, like all of those types of modalities? And how the person responded was, those modalities are fantastic to help allow you to see the potential of your consciousness. But as soon as you start to use it as a crutch, it's negative. You have the power to get to that same exact consciousness if you were aware of it. Ayahuasca, sure, takes you on a trip, but you could do it with ayahuasca if you were tapped into it enough.
You could do it without.
As soon as you use that modality as something more than what you needed, it's going to inevitably be on a negative frequency because you don't need it anymore. You're aware enough. Go out and do it.
Yeah.
Because you have the power within.
Or like Jessica Stone will talk about, okay, maybe before you try ayahuasca or some other sort of medicine form, go sit with a tree for 8 hours. Like you're going to sit with the medicine for 8 hours.
Totally.
Why not try it first with just like go sit your butt down on the earth?
Yep.
And see what the trees have to tell you.
Yeah.
That sounds crazy.
That's the cool part about the being in darkness for 4 days straight. You are just with your consciousness and your thoughts. Coming back into the world, obviously it looks totally different because you have been in darkness for 4 days, but there was no modalities used. It was just you. And so much can come out of that. I think by doing that, and that's something that we talk a lot about, the other side of healing when chronic illness isn't part of your identity anymore, you start to realize how much power you have with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's something I was texting somebody this morning about of we have the power to bring happiness into our lives, not the other way around. And with these symptoms, a lot of the symptoms that are lingering because we're not enabling the power within ourselves to bring the ultimate healing to the table.
Yeah, I think that's where that spiritual piece comes in. That's just like elusive and hard to explain and hard to put words to. But if you allow your suffering to draw you into the spiritual side of yourself, like what a gift.
Yeah.
Like it turns it into a gift, I
Mhm.
think.
Release and let go.
Yeah.
It's the name of the game. So here we are.
I'm not going to do it
Oh, I was just setting you up.
today. I'm too present today.
It's going to be like a drinking game for people on the
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
How many times does Erin just say the exact same thing Josh says? Oh, another shot. People are going to be plastered by the end of the podcast.
Oh, man.
This was good. It's something I'm thinking about a lot. I
Yeah.
encourage others to think about it too. And I know we talk about going west so many times on this podcast. Don't interpret that as us being discontent or not happy. Like we are so grounded in who we are right now. And we couldn't have done this without the season that we're currently in.
Yeah.
And sure, there's longings. And I do feel like on a cellular level, I'm being called to things. But I think it's less about what I want and more about the ripple effect that's going to happen once I tap into these types of things. And so many of those exist around me right now. And I'm continuing to see them on a daily basis. That's growing rapidly. And I think it is for you too.
Yeah. Plus, I think it'll be really fun for people if they've been listening throughout. If and when we then do actualize all of these things that we talk about, will be really cool and perhaps motivational for people.
Agreed.
So it's happening.
We out here just encouraging you to tap into your own consciousness and inner knowing and figure out that joy and then what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Boom, done, roasted. I'm out. Mic drop.
Love you. Let's go get happy.
We already are happy. What you talking about?
I never know how to wrap it up. Let's see.
I see Erin across from me squirming. It's like she knows that we need to end this podcast and she has nowhere to go.
Let's
and she's
put a
like,
bow on it.
Okay, bye. Bye, guys. Bye. We love you. You guys are awesome. Love you too, babe.
Love ya.
Bye. If you listened all the way through, you're awesome.